Greetings, everyone. Welcome to this celebration as we honor the life and work of Avel Louise Gordly today and enjoy readings of her memoir, Remembering the Power of Words, the life of an Oregon activist, legislator, and community leader. My name is Mehra Shirazi. I'm an associate professor of women, gender, and sexuality studies at Oregon State University. I'm so honored and excited to be part of this gathering today. I'd like to open by acknowledging that Oregon State University in Corvallis, Oregon, is located within the traditional homelands of the Marys River or Ampinifu Band of Kalapuya. Following the Willamette Valley Treaty of 1855, Kalapuya people were forcibly removed to reservations in Western Oregon. Today, living descendants of these people are a part of the Confederated Tribes of Grand Ronde Community of Oregon and the Confederated Tribes of the Siletz Indians. We offer our thanks and gratitude to the indigenous peoples, the land, and the water. Next, I'd like to thank the sponsors of this event, the History Department at Portland State University. It's been an honor and privilege to collaborate with Dr. Patricia Schechter, the Women, Gender, and Sexuality Studies program at Oregon State University, and Oregon State University Press. We're honoring Avel Louise Gordly today, and a few words are in order about her life and work. Gordly was born in 1947 in Portland, Oregon. Her parents migrated from the South to Oregon in the 1930s and 40s. Her father, Fay Gordly, worked on the railroad, and after he married Beatrice Randolph, Gordly's mother took care of 4 children and their home in addition to working for wages. Avel Gordly graduated from Girls Polytechnic High School in 1965. After high school, Gordly married and had a son, Tyron Waters, and then worked for AT&T for a few years. In the late 1970s, she returned to school and graduated from Portland State University with a degree in administration and justice. She worked for a number of important institutions, including the Oregon Department of Corrections, the Urban League of Portland, and the American Friends Service Committee. While with the American Friends, Gordly headed the Southern Africa program and provided leadership to anti-apartheid activism in Oregon. This work mobilized the community and led to the state's divestment in South Africa and to the resignation of the South African Council from his office in downtown Portland. While working with the House of Umoja in Northeast Portland, Gordly was appointed to fill a vacant legislative seat in Salem in 1992 and then won it outright in her own campaign. In 1996, she ran for the state Senate and became the first Black woman to be elected in that position in Oregon history. Her accomplishments in office are many and include bringing anti-racist and culturally competent perspectives to bear in all the bills that she championed. After retiring in 2008, Gordly taught in the Black Studies department at Portland State University. She gifted her personal archives jointly to PSU's library and to the Department of Black Studies. She published her memoir, Remembering the Power of Words, the life of an Oregon activist, legislator, and community leader with Oregon State University Press in 2011. She has received many awards and commendations for her service over the years, including an honorary doctorate from PSU in 2017. As you can see in the chat, copies of this book are available from Third Eye Books. To introduce our speakers is Dr. Carmen Thompson with us here today. We're so honored to have you with us, Dr. Thompson. Dr. Thompson is also a Portland State University undergrad alum. Dr. Thompson is a historian, independent scholar, and consultant on the Black experience in America. Dr. Thompson earned her PhD in US history from the University of Illinois, Urbana-Champaign, and her Master's of Arts in African American Studies at Columbia University in New York City. Since 2009, Dr. Thompson has taught a wide range of courses in the Black experience, including American slavery, Black feminism, race, and racism at Portland State University and Portland Community College. She has held visiting scholar appointments at the Institute of Research in African American Studies at Columbia University in New York, and currently in the Black Studies Department at Portland State University, where she is revising the manuscript for her current book project on the history of white supremacy in America, entitled The Making of American Whiteness, which examines the origins of whiteness in America. Everyone, please join me in welcoming Dr. Thompson.
Thank you very much, Mira. Thank you so much. I'm so honored and happy to be here among a lot of friends and people that I see and names that I recognize. So welcome everyone. This is an exciting, exciting day. And my heart is just glad to be here with you. I want to thank the staff of the Women in Gender and Sexuality Studies for hosting this event, as well as Portland State University History Department and helping organize this event. I also want to thank the Oregon State University Press, the publisher of Avel's memoir, Remembering the Power of Words, for which we are gathered for the Women's History Month event, honoring the life and legacy of Avel Louise Gordly. Ironically, this is the second event that I've attended in honoring Avel today. About an hour ago, the City Council issued a proclamation declaring today, April 30th, 2022, Avel Louise Gordly Day. So, woo-woo, Avel. So mark this on your calendars every year, and maybe, hey, we'll make this an annual event. But it's a very exciting day of honoring Avel, so I'm glad to be here. So today's a great day for the state of Oregon for recognizing Avel and her contributions to the state. Before I introduce our readers and artists today, Dr. S. Renee Mitchell and Dr. Antoinette Myers and Latricia Tillman, who will grace us with the reading of Avel's memoir, Remembering the Power of Words. Again, I want to mention that the book can be purchased at the 100% Black-owned Portland-based Third Eye Books, which is in Southeast Portland. Your support of Black businesses and independent booksellers is the kind of intentional and conscious social justice purchasing that is in the spirit of empowering women's history and Black history, and of course, Avel Louise Gordly. Avel's memoir, Remembering the Power of Words, touches on many themes and intersecting forms of oppression that are common to Black women and girls. As you know, Black females, Black women, Black students, and Black girls in Oregon face unique challenges with racism and sexism and sexual orientation discrimination that are different from other women and girls. This was the case for Avel Louise Gordly. Before Avel was the first Black woman elected to the Oregon Senate, she was a little Black girl living in a racially segregated community in North Portland. Before she was a leader of the organization like the Urban League, she was a single mother who struggled to have her ideas recognized and respected. Through family, faith, community, and education, Avel found her voice and used it to affect change. Our esteemed readers today, Dr. S. Renee Mitchell, Dr. Antoinette Myers, and Latricia Tillman will exemplify how this unfolded. So as I will introduce the readers in the order of appearance, afterwards, if time, we'll open it up for questions. Please remember to put your questions in the chat. And I'll start by introducing our first reader and then just introduce all the readers consecutively, and then our first reader, Dr. Renee Mitchell, will begin after I do all the introductions. So let me begin with Dr. S. Renee Mitchell. She is an acclaimed trainer, facilitator, community heartivist, and educator with an expertise in culturally relevant social emotional learning and healing from racial trauma. She is also a former newspaper columnist for the Oregonian, where she was nominated twice for a prestigious Pulitzer Prize. Dr. Mitchell is also the visionary behind I Am More, Making Ourselves Resilient Every Day, an evidence-based and nationally award-winning Black youth development program. As a self-proclaimed creative revolutionist, Dr. Mitchell expresses herself through poetry, art, quilting, and multimedia experiences. Her unrelenting dedication to community and uplift has also garnered her numerous local and national awards, including the 2021 Gladys McCoy Lifetime Achievement Award, the 2021 Liberty and Hope Award, and the 2019 and 2020 Spirit of Portland Award, among others. Her next book, In My Power, I Empower Moving Black Youth from Spirit Murder to Emotional Emancipation, will be released in 2022. After Dr. Mitchell, the next reader will be Dr. Antoinette Myers. Dr. Myers was raised in Inglewood, California, and Southwest and Southeast Washington, D.C., and later moved to Portland, Oregon for high school. Dr. Antoinette Myers Perry would often attend 10 schools before becoming the first person in their family to go to college. She began her career as a special education teacher on the Big Island, Hawaii, teaching preschool, kindergarten, first and second grade reading, and third grade math. She has also served as the assistant dean of students and director of the Multicultural Resource Center at Oberlin College, and most recently, the dean of students at the Berry School. Dr. Tony has a BA in politics and international relations and Latin American studies from Scripps College, a master's degree in educational policy, organization, and leadership studies from Stanford University, and a doctorate of education in organizational change and leadership from the University of Southern California. A published poet, a painter, a multi-instrumentalist, a polyglot, educator, advocate, activist, and a filmmaker, Dr. Tony served as the co-chair to the White House Task Force LGBTQ plus African American youth, and even debuted a short film, #Femimagic, at the Queer Women of Color Film Festival in San Francisco. A recent recipient of the Leroy Hofberger Fellowship, Dr. Tony is set to join a cohort of talented painters at the Maryland Institute College of Arts this fall. And after Dr. Myers, last but not least, Latricia Tillman will be the reader. She specializes in coaching, consulting, public speaking, public health, health equity policy development and implementation, program design, and equity, diversity, and inclusion assessments, interventions, strategies, and implementation support. Ms. Tillman has promoted equity, diversity, and inclusion in health and human services in Arizona, Massachusetts, and Oregon for nearly 25 years. Since returning home to Oregon in 2000, she co-founded the African American Outdoor Association, established the Office of Equity and Inclusion in the Oregon Health Authority and the Multnomah County Health Equity Initiative, and served as the first African American public health director in Oregon. She helped launch Oregon Alcohol and Drug Policy Commission and the equity manager position for Oregon Housing and Community Services. She currently serves as the Washington County inaugural Chief Equity and Inclusion Officer. Ms. Tillman earned her master's degree at Boston University of Public Health and was awarded its Dr. Martin Luther King Fellowship, as well as a Congressional Black Caucus Foundation Fellowship. She was awarded a Woman of Achievement Award by the State of Oregon Women's Commission on Health Equity Champion Award by the State of Oregon Advocacy Commission. She contributed a chapter on health equity in a book focused on Oregon's experience with healthcare reform. What an esteemed group. We're glad to have them in our presence, and we'll begin our reading today with Dr. Mitchell.
Thank you so much. Can everyone hear me?
Okay, excellent. I'm so thrilled to be able to participate in this. I am reading from chapter 10. I'm located here at the Soul Restoration Center on the former Albina Arts Center. I'm reading the chapter titled Hope in Hard Work. I'm reading actually excerpts of that. So Patricia, possibly if you can help make sure that I'm not going over time. So I love the chapter because it begins with hope, the word hope. Back when Nelson Mandela was released in 1990, I was aware that people in my community viewed me as a leader, as a source of good counsel, and as someone to be trusted. I was someone they consulted with on a number of issues, aside from US policy towards South Africa. For example, Bishop Wells, leader of the Albina Ministerial Alliance and leading founding pastor at Emmanuel Temple Church of God in Christ, would call on me about issues in the community. I can vividly remember a woman who worked with the State Employment Agency, with whom we sat for a long time to come up with a strategy to help her stay in her job. Ronnie, Reverend Jackson, and Reverend Garlington, but especially Ronnie, regularly called on me to participate in significant decisions, discussion sessions, and press conferences. In these meetings, I was always aware, looking around the table, of being, if not the only woman, maybe one of 2 or 3 women. Depending on the issue, some other women consulted, including Karen Powell, Jean Vessup, Charlotte Rutherford, Edna Robinson, Mrs. Vicia Loving, or Mrs. Bobby Gary. My awareness of this imbalance produced an ongoing consciousness in my work. I was very conscious of not allowing myself to be put into the position of being the note taker or the one who would wind up with more than my share of the work. Halim Rassan liked to write and was often the one who said, maybe we need to write a letter about this or that. And in my mind, I think, that's good. Let the guys have a share of the work. It is important for me to make the point that if I did and still do support advancing effective African-American male leadership, it is so important to have these positive, powerful images successfully confronting injustice before our children. We always, always need a counter to the pervasive images that emasculate Black men in Portland, Oregon, and elsewhere. So therein lies the tension, sometimes between affirming male leadership and Black women asserting their leadership and having it affirmed. Sharing power and labor was negotiated informally in community settings, both within and outside the Black United Front. There were times, for example, when Ronnie couldn't share meetings or facilitate, so he would ask me to do that. There were other men who could have taken that role, but he asked me. So I took the requests as a statement about trust. It was also a statement about my capacity to be effective. And I got a reputation for getting things done. People let me know that they appreciated how I moved things along without a heavy hand and how I made sure everyone had a voice. People left the meetings feeling good, like something had been accomplished. As my skills developed, I was being affirmed and acknowledged. Accepting my own skills and power had its challenges. At one press conference in particular, a picture really told the story. I was asked to participate in this media event, but I was trying not to be on stage, and it shows. The photograph is of Garlington, Jackson, and Herndon, but I'm pulling back out of the picture. There are 4 seats at the table, but I was literally pulling myself back, like I just wanted to be in the background. And when I think back on that picture, I remember wondering, why am I pulling myself back? At the time, I didn't have an answer. A few years ago, another picture appeared in the Oregonian in the Metro section. We were confronting then Mayor Bud Clark about affirmative action. In this scenario, Ronnie was there. I'm very much present and very much on board. I even remember that I had a suit on. I was dressed for battle, though my preferred dress is casual. With Mayor Clark, Ronnie and I were on purpose. We were being taken seriously, and I'm not holding back. Throughout my active years with the Front, with Mandela's release almost right in the middle in 1990, the focus was on education. It culminated with the creation and my participation in the Education Crisis Team, led by Ronnie Herndon and Tony Hobson of SEI. We were also concerned about economic and community development. Largely due to Ronnie's negotiations with Nike, the Front successfully got an outlet store located on Martin Luther King Jr. Boulevard. Part of the deal was for the company to hire from the community and to provide employment and management training opportunities for folks living there. Certainly, police brutality and police issues were ongoing, but the education piece remained central. Our agenda focused on achieving a quality, non-racist education for all children. We placed the emphasis on all children. To be sure, we spoke on behalf of African American kids, but the point we made was that deficiencies in teaching, administration, and curriculum affected all students. In absence of information about the history and culture of African Americans and other people of color, shortchanged all students. I've come back physically to the meetings acutely aware that part of what I'm bringing back historically is a new elder role, because it's got to be done correctly if strong community is to be built and cultural traditions are to be maintained. We must be about passing the torch, intentionally passing the leadership torch to a new generation that is ready and prepared to serve. Those are excerpts from chapter 10.
Excellent. Thank you, Dr. Mitchell. Antoinette? Dr. Myers?
Hi, hello. I was afraid I was going to do the Zoom thing and start speaking at you while I was muted, so apologize for that brief delay. Thank you so much, Dr. Mitchell. That was an amazing way to get us started. I will be reading excerpts from chapter 4 called Them Changes, which spoke to me because I was around this age when I met Senator Gordly for the first time. The only thing I remember about anticipating the world of adult sexuality is a book my mom gave me about menstruation, and the changes in a woman's body. It was through reading that I made these discoveries. My knowledge of sexuality was not based on anything that she or my grandmother sat down and told me. Sex was not even really a topic with my girlfriends. We would talk if we heard that someone got pregnant, but there was no rite of passage or engaged conversation about how my body was going to change or how I or anyone else might feel about that. I still have a clear memory of the book being on the dining room table because my mom put it there and left it for me. My dad's way of talking to me about sexuality was a command. Stay away from boys. I don't recall him saying, don't get pregnant. But we were not allowed to go to parties, and I heard my dad's later objections to Faye going away to school at the University of Oregon as related to this issue of protection and control over our bodies. I also heard his objections to her wishes as somehow punishment for what I had done by getting pregnant, but my sister went away anyway. I think she and Mom just worked it out, thinking that Dad would catch up later. Grades were supposed to count for something at our house, but I think it was hard for my father to think through support for his daughter's education, since school, especially college, seemed to entail freedom from home and distance from family. Finding out I was pregnant was scary, and I was afraid to tell my mom. In fact, I couldn't tell my mom. She told me. She was the one who asked me if I was pregnant. I had to say yes, because I was showing and she knew my cycle, but she did not shame me with a, how could you? There was none of that. I was afraid of what I was going to hear. The "what are the neighbors going to say" tape was playing in my head. It was not a good time. I finished high school and attended the graduation ceremony at Girls Poly. We wore all white robes, and I was just beginning to show. Graduation was a really big deal as I was the first woman in the family to graduate. It was wonderful. My mom and dad and grandma were so proud. It was a real celebration. And when I look at the picture taken of that day, I can see satisfaction on my face. I don't know that I would say it was joy, but nothing could really dim my accomplishment. But graduating from high school led to a very challenging time for me. My awareness of the Vietnam War came through TV, and being a reader, I read about it in the newspapers too. When I enrolled at Portland State, I had loans and grants and worked part-time. I had key punch training, so I actually became a key punch operator and worked downtown 4 to midnight while going to school. My mom took care of Ty, and that's how I made ends meet. And for a short time, I was on welfare for the health care benefits and food stamps. It was embarrassing for me to collect benefits, even though I had earned them. And this experience and memory stuck with me when I entered the legislative and policy world. My first year at Portland State was really significant because I met people who decisively influenced my thinking and life choices for the next 20 years. I took courses in the Black Studies department and was introduced to a literature that I was unfamiliar with and that I just thrived on. I was in a setting with Black professors. That experience was new. I had only had one Black teacher in my public school education. My poetry class with Primus St. John was transformational. I was keeping a journal and writing a great deal, including poetry. I was able to share my writing in this class and have my voice affirmed in a public way. By contrast, I had an experience in women's studies at PSU that was very uncomfortable and negative. I took a course with Mildred, and we did a project that involved interviews with a group of Black women in the community. We promised these women we would share the information in the class. We played a tape recording of their stories, but that we would keep the tape in our own possession. The instructor insisted, however, that if we did not turn in the tape, it was going to affect our grade and that we would only get a C. We agreed to take the lower grade rather than break our promise to the women we interviewed. Here was a lesson about having Black women's words appropriated and our communal ethos violated, which Mildred and I successfully resisted. And clearly, however, during my PSU years, it hit me that my college choices meant leaving behind girlfriends from grade school and high school. And as time went on, I was not connected to them in the same way. And we began living in different worlds, even though we occupied the same demographic space of the Portland Black community or neighborhood. As I shifted my educational standing and employment prospects, white folks raised their own questions like, "Are you from here? You don't seem like you're from here." And I'm never sure exactly what that means, but the effect is one of suspicion, alienation, and even rejection. I was part of a group of PSU students who found each other and created community. Black Studies faculty communicated that we belonged on campus, and in their classes affirmed that there was a place for us and for what we had to say. A few of us active Black students on campus had known each other from the community in Northeast Portland, and a few of us had actually gone to Girls Poly together. And at PSU, we also formed study groups. I was focused on getting through successfully and worked at claiming and being claimed as part of a community that tried to help other students get through. Aside from that connection, I was not tied into the general campus community life. If I wasn't in class, I was working. If I wasn't working, I was studying. And if I wasn't studying, I was sleeping or taking care of Ty. Black students worked hard to create a sense of community, but outside the spaces of our offices, Black Cultural Affairs, and the Martin Luther King Jr. Scholarship Fund, we felt alien. The pride associated with this scholarship fund touched us on and off campus. One year I received an award for my work on the fund, and it was a welcome acknowledgement. My learning in Black studies helped quiet some of these tapes about racism and sexism. Extremely important to me was finding language to discuss taboo subjects like skin color and hair texture, In Black Studies, these subjects actually came up in our classes. One professor asked us students, does skin color matter in the Black community? And how does that issue get talked about in the Black community? I remember a huge discussion around skin color and my relief at being able to discuss color consciousness. I was able to make much clearer connections about assumptions I'd grown up with, like my mom's light skin and features, and how she was always talked about as a beautiful Black woman. Black Studies introduced language to frame questions about many things related to race and power that I only silently observed while growing up. My college education was driven by curiosity, a love of reading, and a real urgency about all there was to know. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Meyer. Latricia Tillman is the next reader.
Thank you so much. And first, giving honor to God and to the beautiful mother mentor, Senator Avel Gordly, and just noting in the audience all those on whose shoulders we stand, people who are our elders who have been in this struggle for a long time, as well as all of those who are picking up the torch that Senator Gordly has been so intentional about passing on. My honor and privilege is to read chapter 1, Before We Become Dust, and excerpts from the afterword. Growing up, finding my own voice was tied up with denying my voice or having it forcefully rejected. And in all of that, the memory of my father is very strong. To this day, and I am today a very experienced public speaker, preparation to speak takes a great deal of energy. A lot of energy is dedicated to overcoming fear and the pain of injury previously inflicted on me for speaking up. Over the years, I have developed some sure ways to find my voice, catch my breath, and start to speak. Sometimes I think prayerfully of the names of my mother, Beatrice Bernice Gordly, and of my grandmothers, Alberta Louise Randolph and Leslie Gordly. Sometimes I say their names to myself. Sometimes I speak them aloud. I say the names with thanks and gratitude to God. Saying their names always centers me. Sometimes I even start my remarks by dedicating my words to honor their memory. I also use word for word prepared text for my speeches, not just notes or outlines. I have to write down every word to get through my fear. Just recently at an Urban League dinner in town, Dr. Julianne Malveaux, the brilliant economist, gave a wonderful speech without notes. I've loved listening to her for many years. I admire how she uses language, her comfort in her own skin, her way of storytelling, and her use of humor. As I acknowledge and affirm who she is, a little piece of me still feels not good enough. A tape recording in my head about being not good enough was violently enforced in my life over a period of many years. My story involves a struggle to quiet that tape and find my own voice in the world. Though we are both accomplished Black women and share certain perspectives and experiences, my voice is different from Dr. Malveaux's. We have different unique stories and selves formed in different unique circumstances. My circumstances took shape in Portland, Oregon, where I was born on February 13th, 1947. Many, many times during my childhood, my mom, my sister Faye, and I would be at home glued to the television set, watching something related to the civil rights movement. In fact, anytime a Black person was on TV at all, my mom would be on the phone calling someone to tune in and watch, or someone would be calling her, which speaks volumes about Black invisibility in the early 1960s. The Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. visited Vancouver Avenue Baptist Church in November 1961. My grandmother's copy of his book about the Montgomery bus boycott, Stride Toward Freedom, was signed in that church when he came to visit. I have this volume in my personal collection, a treasured memento of those historic years of hope and struggle. A march held in Portland on September 22nd, 1963, brought the civil rights movement even more directly home to me in Oregon. A wonderful high school teacher, Mr. Amasa Gilman, encouraged me and my friends to participate in this march, intended to protest the murder of the 4 little girls in the church in Birmingham, Alabama. On that Sunday, we marched from Vancouver Avenue Baptist Church on the east side into downtown Portland, and we massed in front of the federal courthouse. I have a strong memory of being present with my girlfriends, Irma and Leela, my buddies. We were sister friends and traveled everywhere together. Many participants in the march spoke about their pain over the killings. It was painful for me to dwell on this outrage, but it was also a relief. That march was a defining moment because it exposed me to people who spoke out in support of something of great importance, civil rights, and against something horrible, the murder of innocent children. Looking back, the event allowed me to link the issue of African-American civil rights explicitly to horrendous violence against Black girls. Something about that moment in time remains heavy for me to this day. Yet that march told me that I could have a voice too, even as a young person. The march evokes memories of the power of words in my life. Words carry so much feeling, history, and meaning. Words carry the power to inspire. They can also inflict great pain. I always attend carefully to language because I want my words to mean what I say. I'm keenly aware that words are not just sent, they are also received. Yet the speaker can only control the first part, the sending. In my life, all too often, the right word from me did not bring the desired response. I remember an assignment in high school. It may have been a crossword puzzle requiring us to identify names of famous people. One name was that of the well-known film director, Elia Kazan. I knew the name because I was a reader and the name was just there for me. When I spoke out the answer in class, the teacher looked at me and said, "How do you know that?" I felt like I had been struck because his words meant, "You're not supposed to know that." Many years later, a white female colleague in the legislature would say to me with surprise after hearing me speak, "You sound smart." A boundary between knowledge and speech had been transgressed, and this teacher reprimanded me for assuming the power to cross it. At school, knowing the right word and speaking it often elicited racial hostility. At home, I faced another set of challenges related to speaking up. Talking back, especially to my father, was strictly forbidden. My dad let my sister and me know that we were not to question him or ask why about anything. When he spoke, that was the law. A defining moment of enforcing this law took place in the kitchen when I was a teenager. My mom was fixing dinner and she and my dad were talking. I was sitting in a chair. Somehow I was part of the conversation and asked why. The next thing I knew, I was picking myself up from the floor. My father had struck me across the face so hard, I literally saw stars. That punishment was for asking the question, why? It is a gift to look back and unpack everything in between then and now and reflect aloud. How many of us get to do that before we become dust?
That was so beautiful. Thank you to all the readers. Your readings and renderings of Avel's writing was magnificent. I know the audience have lots of questions, but as you're preparing your questions that you'll put in the chat, I'd like to turn the program back over to Dr. Mitchell, who has a short 4-minute mosaic of pictures of Avel in the community that I think will put a nice little bow onto the readings and then allow us to transition to questions. Dr. Mitchell?
Thank you. Oh. We're trying to get the sound right. So I'm going to show the video, but I first also want to welcome all the elders who have come into the Soul Restoration Center. Can you see them? We're trying to get the technology together here. So did y'all get a chance to see it? Did y'all get a chance to wave?
Dr. Renee, if you
working?
unblur your background,
not
we'll
working?
see them.
Sorry about that.
Unblur
Okay.
your background.
Oh. Okay. So I am going to share my screen and share sound, optimize for, I don't know if this is going to do it. It has the question marks. We're going to try and see if we could make this work. Open system preferences, sorry. There's an accessibility issue. Okay, so I'm gonna get off the screen and maybe I can help. I can get some help from the folks who can help me try to figure out how to do the accessibility. Do you know how to do that, Jeff? I mean, Elise? Okay, so I'm trying to share the screen and it's just giving me this. If I can share it with you. No, that's not it. It tells me I'm gonna have to, okay. So I'm gonna have to cut this off. Sorry about that. We will be able to, what I'm gonna do is share that with Elias here at the center, and he'll be able to put it onto his computer. So you could start to ask, get questions, and then we're gonna figure this out. Sorry for that.
I didn't know who was fielding the questions while Renee is getting that. I didn't know if Mira or Patricia Schechter is going to be doing that, or Mira,
so
either
far,
one.
no questions. So far, no questions.
Any comments or Avel, if you had something that you wanted to say while we're getting that together, either way, let's chime in.
Hello, everyone. I
Yes.
just want to share my thanks and gratitude for your presence. I've seen lovely, familiar faces and some faces I've not seen for a very long time. And my heart is singing right now. I so appreciate the opportunity to share these words with you through the writing that Patricia Schechter helped me document over a decade ago now, 2011. And I'm remembering with joy our many meetings, Patricia, in my PSU office behind the closed door with the tape running and taping every word. And developing the love and trust that I share with you to this day in our sister friendship. I thank you publicly for all that you have helped to make possible in sharing stories from my life. I want to encourage everyone listening to share your stories, keep journals. When your heart is so full, write it down or speak it into a recorder. And the other thing I want to be sure to say today is that at this time in my life, my 75th revolution around the sun, I'm feeling a need for more love and kindness being spoken. Let us all commit to sharing more love and kindness. And I said this morning to the city council that I'd like to live in a city where we are known for kindness and roses. And so I leave the thought with you right now that let's embrace love. Let's tell somebody right now that you love them. Don't put it off. And let us be practitioners of kindness so that we can build that beloved community that Dr. King taught us to envision. Because the cornerstones in such a community must be love. Thank you, everyone. It's so wonderful to see your faces. And Antoinette Myers, Dr. Myers,
Yes,
I
ma'am.
have to say to this young woman, I remember when she was 15,
Yes, ma'am.
budding artist, and here she is now, Dr. Myers, Dr. Myers, and still the artist, still the beautiful artist. If you want to see her work, you might go by the Albina Early Head Start Center on the corner of Skidmore and Mississippi. There's a wonderful art collection inside the building. And one of the paintings includes Antoinette's wonderful work that includes Dr. Renee Mitchell and the late Willie Mayhard and the late Ethel Simon McWilliams. And again, Antoinette was a teenager when she created that wonderful, wonderful piece of art. I also want to thank Third Eye Books for making the book accessible to community. And I thank you and congratulate you for the establishment of your business, a Black-owned bookstore in our community. It's important that every generation have access to Black literature, and that we're able to do that through this wonderful bookstore is a great thing. Thank you so much, everyone, for being here. Elizabeth, I did hear your reference to your three sons. I remember when they were little things and now they're grown up, they're men. I appreciate your beautiful spirit and all that you share, continue to share. Taria, I heard your voice earlier. I know that our Queen Mother Mariah Taylor is somewhere in the room. Mariah, I love you, and what you give to this community through your heart, your expressions of love are just so wonderful. They encourage us. I see Bev from my reading group. We've been together for 35 years. Sisters reading books. The first article we read was Bell Hooks. And Bell was writing then about finding our voices. That was 35 years ago. We're still finding our voices. Dr. Renee, I want you to say more about what you've written and the book that you've got coming out soon. I'm reading Dr. Renee's manuscript. It's magnificent. It's a gift to our healing. So get ready to read and study and talk about it together. And I see Beth Englander's note. Beth, I remember you with love and admiration. You were one of my first legislative interns, and you noticed the book I had on my bookshelf in my legislative office. It was the book about the life of Shirley Chisholm, and you wanted to know, who's that? What's that about? And we both shared our, I think it was anger. It was really anger that you, as a then graduate of University of Oregon Law School, had not been introduced to the life and story of Shirley Chisholm in your education, your Oregon education. Just a telling reminder of how much work there still is to do to bring this literature to our students. And I know that that's one of the things Dr. Renee is wanting to do through her amazing work. Again, I can't say enough, Renee, about your words and your work and your healing spirit, the healing gifts you bring to our community, because that's our work right now, isn't it, everyone? It's to be about the healing, claiming our individual healing, our collective healing, our family healing, our neighborhoods healing, but to name it, claim it, and heal. That's what we've all got to do together. Tricia Tillman, oh my goodness, such grace, such beauty, such thoughtfulness and integrity you bring to everything you do. I had the honor, you gave me the honor of tutoring your son when he was still in grade school. Aiden, now grown up, he's a man. And I'll tell you all a little story and then I'll stop talking. Aiden, one day we were coming from my picking him up from his school, Holy Redeemer. And we made that little turn off of Martin Luther King Jr. Boulevard onto Alberta Street, headed toward the Tillman house. And Aiden says to me, Miss Avel, what's a chastity belt? And I couldn't even get to the words that I wanted to say to him, because he then said to me, that's all right, I already know. Anyway, it was one of my favorite stories to tell about hanging out with this wonderful young man named Aiden. Again, thank you. Thank you, everyone, for your presence today. And please do get the book the memoir. Help us to get the book into Portland Public Schools and into other classroom settings. 11 years later, and the book is still not required reading that I know of in any Portland Public School curriculum. I think that's a shame, but I think it's something that can also be corrected. And so we'll do that, won't we, together? Dr. Renee, say something more about your wonderful writing, the book you're writing and are publishing soon.
Yes, it's called In My Power, I Empower, Moving Black Youth from Spirit Murder to Emotional Emancipation. It's part dissertation, part autobiography, part poetry, and part social commentary. And been working on it diligently for a minute. It's really about the evidence-based work that I do with youth and sharing some life experiences that really put me on the path toward being able to do this work at I Am More, where we're trying to provide culturally relevant programming that helps them move past the trauma and start to reimagine themselves as the heroes of their stories. I love this work. And be able to, I'm looking forward to being able to share it with everyone. And hopefully we'll start having copies out this month. And so we'll be able to, I'll post it on Facebook, let people know what's going on. But thank you so much for reading it, Ms. Avel,
Oh,
and giving me
it's
feedback.
a treasure. It's a treasure. And speaking of treasures, I see that Dr. Antoinette Myers has behind her now the painting that
Are you on mute?
Yeah, I'm on mute. I'm listening.
there's
I'm
that's the painting that I was referring to. You see Dr. Renee in that painting, and Antoinette's in the painting too. and she's got Beatrice Kennedy, the first Black woman to run for a seat in the legislature and a seat on the Portland Public School Board. Now it's back in another century, the 1920s. But just look at that painting. It's just so wonderful. And Dr. Antoinette created that as a teenager. I think she was maybe 15 at the time.
16, going on 17. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. Shout out to Kata Swalbeck at Art Up for allowing us to choose our mentors. And you all were strategically placed. I had everyone there placed next to folks that I consider to be mentors to you, and opening doors to you, so that the piece ultimately was about honoring legacy and seeing myself as a part of that legacy, which was pretty bold for me to do, not being from Oregon, and put myself at the end there next to Damali Ayo. But that was my way of connecting myself to you all, and letting you all know that I truly do love you. Uh, I am because you are. So thank you.
Dr.
I also-
Mitchell, I think we have time for your mosaic, if you have that ready.
in my office at the House of Emotion. Had a bedroom upstairs and a little office downstairs. Sitting in the office, and I got a call from a woman, Thalia Zapatos. Thalia and I had been doing some work together with the Rainbow Coalition and, Jesse's campaigns, and then later we worked together on Barbara Roberts' campaign for governor. She became the first woman governor in Oregon. Got a call from Thalia, and she let me know that that a vacancy was going to be coming up in the State House, House of Representatives. She asked me if I would be interested in running for that seat, and I was really dismissive. I was busy, basically, is what I said to her. We were doing the House of Emotion. But then, some weeks later, I was at a meeting, a community meeting of the Black Leadership Conference. Carl Talton was sitting on the other side of the table from me, and the subject of the vacancy in the House of Representatives came up, and Carl said to me that he thought I would do well in that role, and I heard all these other voices chiming in, and I was terrified. I ran from the idea, I really did. And a little while later, I was in Colorado for a gathering of the women of color as warriors of light, Black women from all over the country, different walks of life, different spiritual paths, but all seeking, knowing that we needed to take care of ourselves because we were all out there doing stuff in the community, and we needed a place to renew. On the first day of the retreat, I heard myself describing this opportunity that had been presented to me back home. And so I was by giving voice to it, I was giving the idea life too. And so then when I came home, I made a list of over 50 people from different walks of life that I knew. And I checked in with all of them. But what I heard from everybody was, "Oh, we've been waiting for you to do something like this, and where do we send the check? And, are you organized? Do you have a committee?" That kind of thing. And a number of people that I trusted in the community came together around me and helped me launch that first campaign. And I served for 17 years, first as a member of the House of Representatives. I was successful in getting the vacant seat in the House, and then I ran in my own right twice in the House, and then ran for the Senate in '96 and retired in 2009. Again, I had the honor of being asked by a community to run.
Awesome. Thank you, Dr. Mitchell. That was fabulous.
Thank you. Thank you. I stayed up till like 3 a.m, but I'll be redoing the video with some of the footage from the City Council meeting today and then reposting it. So I also trying to figure out technology, and I finally figured it out. So folks who are in the room can wave. We are here at the Soul Restoration Center, just showing you some love. So
What's the name of the place?
thank you, thank you, thank you.
The Soul Restoration Center?
Oh, I don't hear anything.
Yes, it is the Soul Restoration Center.
Say that name again.
Soul Restoration.
All right.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you, everyone at the Soul Restoration Center. We're opening it up for questions. While you are getting your questions together for the chat, I just wanted to, once again, someone said in the chat, the love that's in the room, even through Zoom, just jumps off the screen and into our hearts. And it feels like we're all together. Dr. Mitchell, Dr. Myers, Latricia, the readings, your renditions, bringing the words to life were so wonderful, so touching, so moving, so full of love. It's just excellent, excellent, excellent artistry and feeling and just spirit that you brought into those words. I can't tell you enough. So yes, it's just been wonderful. We had one question just to get us started. Someone asked, how can I find my best gift to give to the next generation in my family and beyond? Avel, I don't know if you wanted to address how is it that one can find the best gift to give to the next generation in their families and beyond. Avel or any of their readers, if you wanted to just touch on that. Avel, I'll start with you first for your comments.
I'm thinking of Charlotte Rutherford as I'm speaking. I believe that Charlotte is somewhere in the Zoom. And I'm going to say it's your stories. It's the family stories. Make sure that the eldest member of your family still living, that you sit down at the feet of that person and listen to them, listen to their story. Write it down, tape it, videotape it, get the story and ask lots of questions. I wish that I had done more of that with my mom and dad, hearing more about their lives. And so don't let that be a regret. Get those stories. And I want to thank Charlotte Rutherford publicly for writing the introduction to my memoir and draw your attention to the gift that she has shared with Portland State University Library. It's the collection of her family's, the Rutherford collection, the story of her family's life journey to Oregon. It's her story to tell. And so Charlotte, we'll be looking forward to you telling that story at the Soul Restoration Center soon.
Very good.
I want to acknowledge Dr. Gloria Gosnell also. She's on the Zoom. And Gloria wrote a beautiful piece that she wanted to share this morning at council and was unable to do so. But we need to make sure that you all get a chance to read what she wrote too. It's just so beautiful, so beautiful. And again, she's part of my reading group that's been together for 35 years. Thank you, Gloria. I'm calling you Dr. Gloria because you earned that. And so that other folks on the Zoom will know that we have an educator by the name of Dr. Gloria Gosnell, who served faithfully as an educator with Portland Public Schools for many years until her retirement.
Thank you for that. We have another question, Avel. Tell us about that fire soul that had the courage to ask why to your father, even knowing he did not want to hear it. It's the spark, the core, the spirit that brought you. Tell us more about that. And that question is from Sally Van Meter.
You're asking me in this moment to revisit a painful a painful memory. And it would require me to say many more words than time would allow right now. But I will say that it is my intent to write another book, a continuation of the memoir. And I think that Dr. Gloria Gosnell has given me a good beginning to that book with the words that she wrote for me today. And you'll be hearing more about that later. I will say this, that when we ask of each other to share memories that carry pain, we need to be open to listening with our whole heart, and our whole present self. And we need to be doing more of that with each other as we do the work of healing in our community. And we'll look to Dr. Renee to lead us in that work, because one of the things she's done through her writing is just be so open, so transparent, so lovingly open through her heart in sharing her journey to healing. And we need to, we must embrace that. We must embrace that and lift it up, lift it up.
Marta has her hand up. Marta, if you want to ask Avel a question.
Oh, wonderful.
Hello, not a question, but I want to thank you on behalf of my community. I really want to thank you so much for the love that you have support us and help us and so many things through the years. You really are the face of the bridge to work for the Latino community and the African community and work with love. And I have no words to tell you how much I adore you, and I thank you. And thank you again on behalf of my community. Muchas gracias.
Marta, de nada, and you know I claim you as my sister. I do.
Another question from Mary Botkin. What is the one thing you would tell new candidates today, especially women and women of color? Who do you trust for advice?
I would say read the life stories of Shirley Chisholm, Unbought and Unbossed. Start there, Unbought and Unbossed. Read Barbara Jordan's autobiography. And it's important to think about politics as opportunity to serve, to be a servant leader. Think past the status quo politics that we know today and that has us all thinking in terms of party affiliation. Throw that out and think in terms of service to humanity, service to community. How can I share what God has given me in the way of gifts? How can I share that with community?
Avel, there's been so many wonderful thoughts and congratulations to you in the chat. So many wonderful comments on the readers' renditions of your words. That has been so touching to everyone. Everyone is very appreciative of this opportunity, and And if there are other questions out there, or if any of the readers have any brief comments in the last minutes before we wrap up.
I do have a
Pastor, I didn't see Pastor City Councilman at the top. Go ahead and speak.
Lord bless you, Avel, and my big sister.
Thank you, my brother.
I only have one story to share. Is when I came into the city of Oregon, city of Portland and state of Oregon, took my son at the time, and my grandson at the time, which was only about 6 or 7 years old, and got them to get a chance to see and meet Avel. And we didn't know anyone. And we walked into that big old building, and she spotted us and took my son to the floor, gave him an opportunity to sit in her chair. And that was so meaningful that it set the pace. And I got to say again, the spirit that what she has offered from one generation to the next. My son now, at the age of 32, made me very proud, Avel, when he thinks of and sees that picture, that he's able to share it in the college that he went to in Minnesota. So thank you for being just wonderful and all that you have done and laid out, even mentoring me to where I'm at. I cannot thank you enough.
Thank you.
And as we wrap up, I'd like to turn the program back over to our reader, Latricia Tillman. She has some closing readings that I think will put a nice bow on this celebration.
Thank you, Dr. Carmen. And I'm going to read the last paragraph from the postscript. So the final words. And it says, in this work too, I honor Mrs. Vivian Richardson. One day after a meeting of the African American Alliance Unity Breakfast at the Irvington Covenant Assisted Living Center, I stopped in to visit with Mrs. Richardson. She was a resident and longtime Black United Front member and former secretary of that organization. We shared memories of the Portlanders organized for South African freedom and Black United Front. And as we parted, she looked me directly in the eye and said, "Don't forget our people. Don't forget our people." Her words were electric and went directly to my heart. A favorite African proverb says, when the heart is full, it comes out through the mouth. And so it is.
So well said. So well said. Thank you so much, Latricia.
Hey, Ashe.
This has been so wonderful. I just want to thank Oregon State University colleagues, Mira, Karen, Burton, M, Patty, all of you. I want to thank Oregon State University Press. I want to thank Portland State University's History Department, all of the wonderful people who've taken time out of their day to attend. Of course, the readers, Dr. S. Renee Mitchell, Dr. Antoinette Myers, Latricia Tillman, and then of course, Avel. You all have been so wonderful. And I just want to thank you for this event. I'm leaving out of here blessed. My heart is full. If I could just take a word from Avel, just go in love, go in peace, the joy and the spirit and love in your heart that you're feeling at this moment, extend it out into the world as you go. And Avel, I just want to wish you blessings to you on your day, March 30th, 2022, the Avel Louise Gordly Day. And with that, we'll close our meeting.